What's up, Flick Connection? This is Darren, and today I want to talk about why, without exception, do video game movies always suck? So it's very difficult to name a movie based on a video game that was really good. Even when they're okay, they're still not good and they're still big letdowns for fans. And that's when they're at their absolute best. But most of the time, almost without any exceptions that I can think of, movies based on video games are terrible. And there's some reasons why this continues to happen over and over again, even though we've been playing video games for decades now. I've narrowed it down to three primary reasons. The first is it's a very difficult medium to translate. The second is these movies are often created by non-gamers. And the third is they have really high expectations to live up to because of the rabid fan base of the original source material. In most video games, you play as the main character or multiple main characters, and this method doesn't really translate to film well, so the perspective and the point of view has to change for traditional filmmaking, and that immediately changes the essence of what it is, which is why video games are so difficult to translate on screen. Games also don't often have straightforward narratives, meaning even if they're not complete open world games, there's different pathways characters can take and there's different outcomes that can occur that cannot happen with a movie. And again, it's just got a different essence on film than it would when you're inside the game experiencing it in that way. Even some of the best games in recent memory have so much going on in them, like the Uncharted series. There's so many sequences and so many story elements building up this story and this experience that it would be impossible to distill it into a 120-minute movie. However, they have been trying. The Uncharted series has been trying to force its way into movie theaters for well over a decade, has been lined up with multiple directors, and none of them have panned out. Each of the directors have bowed out due to creative differences, and that's probably a good thing, because if it wasn't for that, we'd probably have a really terrible Uncharted movie that nobody liked, and the franchise would be dead in terms of cinema. Whereas right now, with having no movie, there's a potential for this to be the next and new Indiana Jones. Now, directors like David O. Russell, who's famous for a whole host of movies like Silver Linings Playbook, The Fighter, and then way before he kind of flipped out and lost his mind, he was doing movies like Three Kings and I Heart Huckabees, which is kind of where he started to lose it. But he was slated at one point to do an Uncharted movie with Mark Wahlberg and Robert De Niro, and they're both on record in interviews talking about how they were going to make it about family and have this family dynamic with a father and an uncle, and basically that's not what that game is about. That doesn't factor into that game. And so you can see where even top-notch creators in Hollywood just don't understand the medium and don't understand that there's a rabid fan base that wants to see these things brought to life on screen. And they just want to make their own movie with existing source material, and they want to change it however they want. And this is real similar to the fact that you often hear the trope of screenwriters giving up their baby, being their script, and then someone just changing it. That's what happens with video games, except the screenwriter isn't just the creators of the game, it's you who have played the game. You have played through that story and lived through that story, and it's going to get meddled with, it's going to change, and it's not going to live up to your expectations. Oftentimes, the rights to a game property is just acquired by a studio in a bidding process, and then they essentially need to do something with it. They need to turn a profit with it, and so they turn it over to maybe a director that they trust to make something that will work. But the problem is they're often turning it over to somebody that is not a gamer and that hasn't really spent the time to understand and experience the source material. And so they're making their own thing out of it, which is why we never like these movies. It's why they don't work. That's why no one likes the original Mario Brothers for any non-ironic purposes. That's why the most recent Assassin's Creed movie sucked. They're all terrible, and this is one of the reasons why. Now, high expectations from fans combined with the other two elements we just discussed is a recipe for Rotten Tomatoes all over the place, but it's what we keep getting over and over again without fail. Movies based on video games are often action movies, and so they're probably going to get negative or at least unfavorable reviews from official critics. But the rabid fans, the ones that go out on opening weekend, they're the ones that are sort of putting their user reviews out there. And if they're not happy, then you've got negative critic reviews and negative user reviews, which means the movie might tank. People may not go see it with the combination of those two things. And so, really, part of the solution to video games not sucking anymore is figuring out how to please fans. Now, obviously, you cannot please everyone, but I cannot figure out for the life of me why creators, why directors of movies like this are not involving the fan base more. Now, I understand in the creative process, if you ask 10 different people for their input, you're going to get 10 different opinions. Nevertheless, I really think these creators need to start pulling in rabid fans of the source material and just try to pull common denominators. What are some common things all of them feel passionate about in relation to the game? And those are things that need to figure out how to work their way into the story if possible. Now, an even more important solution here is that I really think passionate creators need to be involved in the filmmaking process. And that, in my opinion, is most often going to involve the creators involved with the original material. The creator of the Uncharted series, and more recently The Last of Us, which in my opinion was one of the best video game experiences ever made. At least it's in the top 10. He does a great job using the video game medium for storytelling. And if he is not going to direct a movie based on one of his games, he definitely needs to be involved at the assistant director level, executive producer level. He needs to be on the set daily, working hand in hand with a director that doesn't mind heavy input from the original creator. I think that's going to be necessary. Otherwise, you're just going to be repeating the same formula that is not working. And luckily, that appears to be the case. In fact, there's even a possibility of him directing a movie based on The Last of Us. He is currently writing a script for it, but at the same time, he's had to put out other Uncharted games. He's having to put out a sequel to The Last of Us. So it's slow moving, but that's a good thing. I'm glad the studio is not rushing a movie based on that game out, because the original material was so well done and could make just an incredible post-apocalyptic a zombie type movie like you've never seen before. But it sounds like they might be course correcting, because there have been dozens of movies based on video games that have just tanked at the box office, and Hollywood, based on the year they just had, cannot afford to keep making the same mistakes. So those are my thoughts. That's why I think video game movies always suck. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Likes are always appreciated, but thanks for watching, and you will see me next time.